Imagine a college with, well, no grades, no semesters,
Right?
and no requirement to ever actually sit in a classroom.
Like none at all.
Exactly. A place where instead of passing, a traditional written midterm, your ability to graduate is judged entirely by how well you handle a screaming AI-generated customer who is like 10 minutes late for a meeting.
I mean, it sounds like some kind of corporate training simulation set in the future,
Right.
but it's happening right now. And it is completely upending how we think about evaluating what a person actually knows.
Yeah, and as a lifelong learner, you have probably sat through your fair share of mandatory classes or, endless corporate seminars.
Oh, absolutely.
You sit there, the clock ticks down, and you realize the only actual requirement for passing is just, well, your physical presence in a chair. Your ability to warm a seat is somehow the ultimate metric of your learning.
The classic seat time model. As long as you log the required hours in the system, you get the check mark. It doesn't matter if you master the material in the first 10 minutes or if you're still completely lost when the bell rings.
Which is incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
So today, we're looking at a stack of sources that prove it doesn't have to be this way.
Thank goodness.
We're pulling from a really detailed presentation and transcript from a session titled Beyond the Grade, Creating Assessments that Capture Skills for Career Readiness. And it features academic leaders from an institution called Calbright College.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission for this deep dive is to discover exactly how an institution completely strips away traditional grades, abandons that seat time, and focuses entirely on proving what someone can actually do in the real world.
Yeah, and to really grasp how radical this approach is,
Yeah.
we need to set the stage with what Calbright College actually is.
Please do.
It is California's first fully online, competency-based community college. And the real kicker here is that it's completely free for adult learners in the state.
Wow, completely free.
Completely. Right now, they're serving about 7,000 students across 57 different counties.
That's almost the entire state. They are everywhere.
The scale is massive, and the stakes are just incredibly high. I mean, the demographic we're talking about here consists of adult learners.
Right.
These are folks who are already juggling full-time jobs, they're raising families, managing caregiving responsibilities.
So they don't have time to mess around.
Exactly. For them, education can't just be an intellectual exercise or like a theoretical line on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
It has to translate directly and efficiently into career mobility.
Yeah, they need practical skills that lead to living wages immediately.
Precisely.
And if that's the goal, you have to fundamentally rethink how you measure learning, right? Like a traditional 15-week semester is a luxury a lot of working adults simply don't have.
They really don't.
If your kid gets sick during week 8 and you miss a midterm, your whole semester could just be derailed.
And that vulnerability is exactly why the traditional time-based learning model fails the adult learner. So Calbright addresses this through a structure they call Competency-Based Education, or CBE.
Okay, CBE.
Yeah, the CBE model flips the traditional college timeline completely upside down.
Oh.
So instead of a rigid semester where everyone starts in September and ends in December, Calbright operates with 52 terms a year.
Wait, 52? So a new term every single week.
Every single Monday, a student can start their program.
Right.
Whenever their life allows for it, the doors just open.
I was trying to visualize how different this is from the college experience most of us know. And I was thinking, traditional education operates a lot like one of those moving walkways at an airport.
Oh, I like that.
You step on in September, and everyone moves toward graduation at the exact same speed.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're an Olympic sprinter who could just run to the end, or if you have a sprained ankle and need to go slow. The walkway dictates your pace.
Yeah.
And at the end, your diploma essentially just proves that you managed to stand on the walkway for 4 months without falling off.
Exactly. While Calbright's CBE model is much more like an obstacle course.
Okay, how so?
Well, you are completely in charge of your own pace. You can sprint through the initial hurdles if you already have experience in that area.
Right.
But when you reach a 12-foot wall you've never seen before, you can spend 3 weeks figuring out how to climb it. The focus shifts entirely from how long you spent on the course to whether you can physically demonstrate that you know how to climb the wall.
And because you're changing the fundamental goal from surviving the clock to, mastering the obstacle, the grading system has to be entirely rebuilt.
It really does. They use this 2-level analytical rubric, which completely eliminates the concept of a fail or a 0.
Wow. No failing grades.
None. Instead, the feedback a student receives is simply, not yet.
Not yet. I mean, that is such a powerful shift in language.
It completely alters the psychological weight of the assessment. Because a lot of adult learners, they carry a lot of educational trauma.
Right. They've been told they're just bad at school.
Exactly. And giving someone a 0 just reinforces that fixed mindset, but not yet fosters a growth mindset. It tells the learner that they're on the right path. They just have a mechanical gap in their understanding that needs to be bridged.
I am curious about how that works in practice, though, because the source material mentions they back this up with a policy where a student can submit an assessment up to 6 times to gain proficiency.
Yes, the 6-attempt rule.
When I first read that, my immediate thought was, couldn't a student just brute force the test? Like, just keep guessing C until the system finally lets you pass.
Well, the faculty actually anticipated that exact behavior. So they built a significant amount of structured friction into the system to prevent it.
Oh, okay. What kind of friction?
If a student misses the mark 3 times, they hit a literal roadblock in the software. Yeah, the system locks their assessment,
Mm-hmm.
and they are required to meet with a faculty member or a tutor before they're allowed to submit a 4th time.
So it forces a genuine human intervention. You can't just blindly click buttons in isolation in your bedroom.
Right, and it happens again if they reach 5 attempts.
Yeah.
If the student still hasn't demonstrated the competency, the system blocks them again for another mandatory faculty meeting before their final 6th try.
Okay, that makes sense. The goal is to ensure that the not yet actually leads to mastery rather than just leading to, frustration, wheel spinning, and eventually dropping out.
Precisely.
But hold on, this brings up a massive structural question. If there's no moving walkway and the entire model relies on proving you have the skills,
Yeah.
how do you actually build a test that proves it?
That is where we move from the philosophy of competency-based education to the actual mechanical engineering of the assessments.
Let's get into the mechanics.
It starts by taking a massive, broad competency and breaking it down into what Calbright calls observable skills.
Observable skills.
Yeah. This usually translates to like 2 to 5 highly specific actions a learner must be able to perform.
What does an observable skill actually look like on a rubric, though?
Well, let's look at their data analysis program.
Mm.
A broad competency might be manage a database.
Okay.
But that is way too vague to grade objectively. So they break it down. Observable skill 1 might be write a SQL query.
Right, because SQL is just the standard programming language used to communicate with databases.
Exactly. And observable skill 2 might be join 2 separate tables of data together. The journey to proving those skills actually begins with a pre-assessment, which usually takes the form of a multiple-choice quiz.
See, I have to be honest here, I was a bit confused reading that part of the transcript.
The multiple-choice part, yeah.
We are talking about revolutionizing education, getting rid of seat time, proving real-world career readiness. So, how does a multiple-choice test prove I can do a job?
Well, the faculty addressed that exact pushback during their presentation.
Okay, good.
The multiple-choice pre-assessment does not let you test out of the final project. You cannot just guess your way to a career certificate.
Okay, phew.
What the pre-assessment does is let you test out of the lessons.
Ah, I see. So it acts as a diagnostic tool. If I already know how to write that SQL query from my previous job, it just lets me skip the reading material.
Yes, it respects your prior knowledge.
Yeah.
If you demonstrate you understand the concepts, you get to accelerate right to the final project to actually prove it.
That's brilliant.
And the faculty constantly monitors the data on these pre-assessments too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if they check their dashboard and see that 80% of students are passing a pre-assessment on the first try, they know immediately that the rigor is way too low, the test isn't valid, and they rewrite it.
So it's just a gatekeeper for the actual assessments. And the sources break those actual assessments down into 2 distinct stages, right? The milestone and the summative.
Correct. The milestone assessment is a highly supported, scaffolded project. This is where the student practices assembling those 2 to 5 observable skills together for the very first time.
Got it.
They might be asked to write that SQL query and join those tables using a provided clean data set with clear instructions. It's a safe place to practice combining skills in an industry-authentic task.
Sort of like putting training wheels on a real-world scenario. You're riding the bike, but you have a safety net.
Exactly. But once they succeed at the milestone level, they move to the summative assessment.
The big boss battle.
Yeah, this is where the training wheels come off. It requires total independence. The student has to demonstrate all of the observable skills in a complex, professional scenario without any step-by-step guidance.
Wow.
Ideally, this summative assessment results in a polished artifact that the student can extract from the academic environment and put directly into their professional portfolio.
See, passing an internal college project is a great milestone. But the ultimate test of career readiness isn't whether you can impress a professor with a portfolio piece. It's whether you can survive your first 90 days on a real job.
That's the real test.
So how do they bridge the gap between these internal academic assessments and, external cutthroat industry validation?
What's fascinating here is, well, how obsessed the institution is with that exact standard the first 90 days. They do not just invent curriculum based on what sounds academic. They reverse engineer their entire curriculum using live labor market data.
Live data.
Yeah, they use this platform called Lightcast. It's a really powerful analytics tool that scrapes millions of live job postings across the state of California.
Oh, so they are looking at the actual receipts. They are seeing exactly what hiring managers in Los Angeles or Fresno are typing into the requirements section of their job listings this week.
Exactly. Then they map their curriculum directly to recognized national credentials.
Like what?
So for their IT programs, they map to CompTIA, which is the foundational certification standard for the tech industry. For medical coding, they map to the AAPC credential.
Right.
Furthermore, they convene advisory councils made up of actual industry experts twice a year. They bring these professionals in and literally ask, what is happening in the field right now? What trends are you seeing? What are we missing?
I am so glad you brought up what they might be missing, because it leads to one of the most interesting challenges in the source material.
The durable skills.
Yes. How do you assess durable skills? These are the things we used to call soft skills, right? Communication, empathy, critical thinking. I mean, you cannot give a multiple choice test on empathy.
You really can't. You have to observe it in action under pressure. And they shared a remarkable anecdote about how they handle this in their IT support program.
This was my favorite part.
To test if a student is genuinely ready for a help desk role, they deploy an AI simulation. The student has to interact in real time with an AI client who is struggling with a broken printer.
And we have all been on one side or the other of that broken printer scenario.
Oh, definitely. But the genius of the simulation is how it dynamically adjusts based on the student's performance.
Okay, tell me more.
If the student is nailing the technical aspects of the IT fix, say they're easily diagnosing the IP address conflict or updating the driver, the AI simulation pivots.
It changes its behavior?
Yes.
Yeah.
The AI suddenly transforms into a stressed-out client who is screaming that they are 10 minutes late for a critical board meeting and they need this document printed immediately.
The simulation literally cranks up the heat.
It does.
I mean, if you have ever worked in customer service or tech support, you know that diagnosing the technical glitch is only 10% of the job. De-escalating the panicked, angry client is the other 90%.
Exactly. The system is evaluating their professional resilience. It's likely using sentiment analysis to grade whether the student's responses are calming the AI down or making the situation worse. They are testing durable skills dynamically before the student ever hits the job market.
And they are taking that real-world exposure even further with a program they call Career Bridge.
Yeah, this is their micro-internship initiative. They partner with a platform called Ripen, which acts as a bridge connecting students directly with employers.
So they're getting real experience.
Yes, students engage in 40-hour, fully paid micro-internships. And these are not just fetching coffee or filing papers.
Right. The sources emphasize that the employers actually co-create these projects with the Calbright faculty.
Yes, the co-creation ensures the work is genuinely useful to the company. Like perhaps analyzing a real data set the HR firm hasn't had time to look at, while also effectively utilizing the exact observable skills the student just mastered.
It effectively breaks that awful catch-22 of the entry-level job market. You know the loop where you cannot get a job without experience, but you cannot get experience without a job.
Completely breaks it. The student gets paid for 40 hours of labor, they gain real-world experience, they earn a letter of recommendation, and they get a tangible line on their resume.
That's huge.
The outcome data from this initiative is just staggering. Employers who participated in these micro-internships gave the Calbright students a 4.8 out of 5 rating for workforce readiness.
Wow, 4.8. But wait, think about the sheer logistics required to pull this off. You have 7,000 adult learners.
Yeah.
They are starting their programs on random Mondays, 52 weeks a year. They're moving at their own pace, taking pre-assessments, failing and retaking milestone projects up to 6 times, interacting with angry AI simulations. How is this college not just functioning in total administrative chaos?
Well, you certainly can't run a system like this on a standard spreadsheet or a traditional gradebook.
I'd imagine not.
It requires an incredibly robust, centralized data infrastructure.
How exactly are they managing this tangled web of information?
They utilize Amazon Web Services, which provides massive cloud computing power, and they pair that with a custom Tableau dashboard.
Okay, Tab.
Yeah, Tableau is a highly visual analytics software. And through this dashboard, faculty can track the exact journey of every single student. They can see the moment a learner takes that first multiple-choice pre-assessment, track their progress through every formative lesson, and monitor their attempts on the final summative project.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The way they use this dashboard for equity and curriculum intervention is fascinating. Because in a traditional college setting, if half the class fails a midterm, the professor typically assumes the students just didn't study hard enough.
Right, the blame is placed almost entirely on the learner.
Exactly.
But at Calbright, the data completely shifts that dynamic. If faculty look at the Tableau dashboard and see a cluster of red dots indicating that a significant number of students are failing a specific milestone project, they do not just blame the cohort.
What do?
They use the data to trace the failure backward to its root cause.
They are essentially debugging the curriculum like a programmer debugs a piece of software.
That's exactly it. They look at the rubric and identify the exact observable skill that everyone is tripping over. Maybe everyone is failing on Sutter, joining two tables of data. They trace that specific skill back to the corresponding formative lesson.
Okay.
Then, they analyze the exact multiple-choice questions associated with that lesson to see if the curriculum itself is fundamentally broken. They might discover that the lesson text is overly dense, or a quiz question is poorly worded and confusing everyone, or the scaffolding leading up to the milestone is just completely missing.
I want to pause here and think about how this applies outside of a college environment. Imagine applying this exact debugging mindset to a corporate workplace or your own personal learning journey.
Oh, it changes everything.
Think about how often we rely on massive, heavy judgments. A manager might say, "My new hire is just bad at their job," or "Our team is completely failing at this quarterly initiative."
But what if, instead of those vague labels, you could trace the failure back to one highly specific observable skill?
Exactly. The employee isn't bad at their job. They just lack the highly specific, observable skill of organizing pivot tables in Excel.
And once you isolate that specific mechanical gap, it removes the shame from the equation. It is no longer a character flaw or a sweeping failure of intelligence.
Right.
It's just a missing skill that requires a better tutorial, a bit more scaffolding, or some targeted practice. That is the true power of competency-based thinking. It breaks the overwhelming down into the achievable.
So what does this all mean? If we zoom out from the Tableau dashboards, the moving walkways, and the screaming AI printers, what is the ultimate takeaway from this snack of sources? I think it's that truly capturing career readiness means we have to completely abandon seat time.
Absolutely.
We have to stop rewarding people simply for being in the room. Instead, we have to embrace the productive friction of the not yet mindset. We have to allow people the grace to fail, regroup, and try again.
And crucially, we have to test their durable skills through realistic, high-pressure simulations rather than multiple-choice theory.
The relevance of this model extends far beyond higher education administration, right?
Without a doubt. Whether you are a director designing a corporate training module, a manager hiring a new team, or just an individual trying to learn a new language or technical skill on your own time, the lesson is clear. Focus entirely on observable, real-world outputs. Stop tracking the hours spent studying or the time spent sitting at a desk, and start looking relentlessly at what can actually be demonstrated in practice.
It fundamentally challenges everything we accept as normal in professional evaluation. And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something that builds on everything we've explored today.
Let's hear it.
If the future of education and training is entirely decoupled from time, right? If it is based strictly on passing hyper-realistic AI-driven industry simulations and verified micro-internships, what happens to the traditional resume?
That is a great question.
Will a bulleted list of past job titles, the years you spent sitting in a specific corporate chair, will that soon be replaced entirely?
This might be.
Imagine applying for a job where your resume is just a verified digital dashboard showing the exact high-pressure scenarios you've successfully navigated. I mean, if the old requirement used to be simply being in the room, the future seems to be asking, what can you actually build now that you're here?